All right, shalom, shalom. Here we are with another edition of Practical Knowledge. Today we got a good one for you. First and foremost, what I would like to say, let me get this right. Not too much in my way. What I would like to say is, if you have any interest in this understanding of Daniel 9, I highly recommend watching a video me and General Quabalamath, General Quabalamath and myself did on Daniel the 11th chapter. It's so much history compacted into, I believe, an hour or two. Might have been an hour and a half, hour 40. Nonetheless, a lot of what I'm going to briefly explain in this video, a lot of it in detail is in the Daniel 11 breakdown. However, there are things in the Daniel 11 video that I didn't touch on that I'm going to make note of in this breakdown. We're going to be looking at Daniel chapter 9. The key points in Daniel chapter 9. Like, there's some things in Daniel 9 that are very self-explanatory, very easy to understand. And if you feel it's not, let me know, and I'll revisit this. However, there are things in Daniel 9, when you read, it's easy to misunderstand what's being read. It's easy to be misled by the so-called biblical scholars, these Christian pastors, so on and so forth. So today I present to you, those of you at home, those of you who love history as much as I do, those of you who love the scriptures as much as I do, I present to you the Daniel 9 breakdown. Just to give some context, we are going to be talking about a little bit about three main things. Daniel 9, obviously. Persia. Yes, Persia. And what was the other thing? Daniel 9, Persia, and Josephus, right? We're going to bring out some things out of there. So let's get right into it, man. I'm excited, and I can't wait to bring all of this home. All right. So first, I want to start here. To understanding Daniel 9, we have to start at 2 Kings 24. Now, I know you may be wondering, what in the world does the multi-metallic image have to do with Daniel 9? What does 2 Kings 24 have to do with Daniel 9? What does Nebuchadnezzar the second, or otherwise known as Nebuchadnezzar the Great, have to do with Daniel 9? It's all going to come home like it always does, like Commander Yahanna taught us, and that's how I teach. So, without further ado, let's understand Daniel 9, 2 Kings 24 and 10. At that time, the servants of Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, came up against Jerusalem, and the city was besieged. And Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came against the city, and his servants did besiege it. So I'm reading to you where there was a time in history where Israel was sieged, laid siege on, meaning the Babylonians surrounded the children of Israel. And okay, for you to understand, we were, and this is going to be important for later on in the lesson, we were like most major cities were surrounded by a huge wall. We were defensed, you see, by our great wall. The wall, you know, how the walls of Jericho came crumbling down. Like, cities were defensed by walls. You see, we were defensed by walls, right, physically. And so Nebuchadnezzar, he besieged Jerusalem by not allowing goods in or out. So during this time, the children of Israel, because we had wicked kings and we were living evil in the sight of the Most High, we starved out, man. We starved out. A lot of us died from famine. If you read Second Kings, a lot of brothers and sisters, you know what I'm saying, resorted to eating things unclean. And that was a curse unto us, you see. And they besieged us. And if we keep reading in 2 Kings 24:12, and Jehoiakim, the king of Judah, went out to the king of Babylon, he and his mother and his servants and his princes and his officers, and the king of Babylon took him in the 8th year of his reign. So Nebuchadnezzar visited Israel twice, right? The first time he took Jehoiakim, and they say roughly 10,000 plus men went into captivity. It was known as the Babylonian exile. And he then put the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar II, or Nebuchadnezzar the Great, put Zedekiah as king in the stead of Jehoiakim. Verse 13, and he carried out thence all the treasures of the house of the Lord and the treasures of the king's house, and cut in pieces all the vessels of gold which Solomon the king of Israel had made in the temple of the Lord, as the Lord has said. This is extremely important. It's all going to come home. So now what I want to focus on is not so much the siege of Jerusalem and Nebuchadnezzar, but I want to focus on verse 13 and how the temple of the Lord, which Solomon built. I did a breakdown on the ark, it's like the sanctuary, or the tabernacle, which was a place of sanctuary for the Most High that was transportable, but that was during the time where the children of Israel were nomadic. We were always on the move. Going fast forward to Solomon, from Moses, we were established in the land. David, in his time, subdued all surrounding enemies, and Solomon was commanded to build a physical, concrete temple, one that you cannot pack up and move like the circus, unto the Lord. That's what he did. It was the holy place. It contained the Ark of the Covenant. It contained the table of showbread. It contained the menorah. That was where we offer sacrifices on the brazen altar and the brazen laver, so on and so forth. Nebuchadnezzar, years later, throughout the process of generations, we have a wicked king. Israel's off in the sight of the Lord. He allows the Babylonians, under the rule of Nebuchadnezzar the Great, aka Nebuchadnezzar II, to lay siege on Jerusalem. And in sieging Jerusalem, not only take us captive, but take what's holy unto us captive. The menorah, showbread, a table of showbread, brazen, everything, and defiled the temple and destroyed it. Destroyed what Solomon built. This is very important. Destroyed what Solomon built. I've touched on what Solomon built in previous breakdowns. Okay, so now let's go to the next slide. So now, the Babylonian Empire is at the height of its power, right? Not too much long later, there was a man by the name of Cyrus, also known as Cyrus the Great, who we can talk about a lot of his accolades in life, but I really want to focus on his presence in the scriptures and his life in regards to us, the children of Israel. You see? Hold on, let me see here. Okay. Now, Cyrus the Great ruled from 551, give or take, to 530 BC, according to historians. Of course, he is the man solely responsible for defeating Asteges, right, who was a Median king, and he successfully merged what was known as the Medo-Persian Empire, and he was the king over both empires. The Medo-Persian Empire merged into one. It was one superpower. It was the superpower of the earth. At its time, the Medo-Persian Empire, under the rule of Cyrus the Great, was the largest and the most powerful superpower on the earth at its time. Prior to the Persians, there was no one, in size and dominance to the extent of the Persians and the Medes, and that was prophesied by Daniel as well. Cyrus the Great is the one who also authorized the reconstruction of the temple. What does this have to do with Daniel 9? Stick around, brother and sister. It all makes sense shortly. As you see, Cyrus the Great is not Cyrus the First, as you see on this little family tree I created and put on this slideshow presentation. Cyrus the Great comes from the Achaemenid dynasty. The Achaemenid dynasty, and we'll further talk more about that in just a second. But first, let's read Ezra 1 and 11. 1 and 1 through 11. Now, in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, you know what I like to note too is that a lot of people try to debunk the Bible and try to, put the Bible next to the Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling and fairy tale books. I have a saying: the Bible proves history, not the other way around. History doesn't prove the Bible. The Bible proves history. You see? So in Ezra 1 and 1, now in the first year of Cyrus the king of Persia, this is Cyrus the Great or Cyrus the Second, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus the king of Persia, that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and put it also in writing, saying, Thus saith King of Persia, the Lord God of heaven hath given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he hath charged me to build him an house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. The house he's referring to is the reconstruction of the temple that was destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar the Great under Babylonian rule. Right? Now, I want to note in the first verse, now in the first year of Cyrus the king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled. What exactly is he talking about? Let's read 2 Chronicles 36 and 22. Now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord spoken by the mouth of Jeremiah might be accomplished, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, the king of Persia, that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom and put it also in writing, saying, Thus saith Cyrus, the king of Persia, all the kingdoms of the earth hath the Lord God given me, of heaven have given me, and he hath charged me to build him an house in Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Who is there among you of all his people? The Lord his power be with him, and let him go up. Let him go what? Let him go build the temple was a big thing. Imagine some foreigner destroying the White House, right? That, of course, I'm not comparing the White House to the temple of God. However, that's how important it is to us. That was our place. That was where we served the Lord. That's where we offered offerings unto the Most High. That was given to us directly from God, how it was built and in the instructions and so on and so forth. So when we go back to Ezra 1 and 4, and whosoever remaineth in any place where he sojourneth, let the men of his place help him with silver and with gold and with goods and with beasts, beside the freewill offering for the house of God that is in Jerusalem. So Cyrus is even going above and beyond. And one thing about Cyrus in history that I'll give to him, he wasn't like most rulers back in the day. I've studied Cyrus. I've studied a lot of information we get about Cyrus. You get from Herodotus, Josephus, and different historians, credible historians. And Cyrus the Great, right, was known for being like a good guy, right? He was not an Israelite, he was not a Jew, but he wasn't cruel. You see what I'm saying? And so now I want to focus on where in Second Chronicles and in Ezra, where it says, now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord spoken by the mouth of Jeremiah might be accomplished. What was spoken by Jeremiah regarding Cyrus? Jeremiah 29:10, for thus saith the Lord, that after 70 years be accomplished at Babylon, I will visit you and perform my good word towards you in causing you to return to this place. Because during the time of Jeremiah, which was not far off from the time the reconstruction of the temple, which was 70 years, give or take, the Lord caused us to return. And that was prophesied by Jeremiah. When the Babylonians came and Nebuchadnezzar the Great came and ransacked Israel, the Lord, by the mouth of Jeremiah, still gave the children of Israel hope because he loves us. You see? Also, note in Daniel 9:1, in the first year of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus. This Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, is not the Darius the Great that we'll be talking about soon. Darius was more of a throne name. This was a governor over the region of what Babylon conquered. Cyrus, in his power, positioned different men in different areas to play as like a governor over certain areas. So that's who this Darius is. Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, the seed of the Medes, which was made king over the realm of the Chaldeans. There it is there. Verse 2, in the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood by the books the number of the years whereof the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah the prophet, that he would accomplish 70 years in the desolations of Jerusalem. So now you're understanding that because Daniel and Jeremiah weren't too far off. You understand? Like a lot of the prophets, they're called, a lot of historians attribute the name exilic prophets, accredited to the exile, the Babylonian exile, the Babylonian captivity. You had Ezekiel, Haggai, Zerubbabel, Micah, not Micah, it's like Nehemiah, Ezra, Haggai, Amos. I could be wrong about Amos, but the other ones I'm 100% sure that these brothers were alive during the time of the Babylonian exile and the reconstruction of the temple. So, what does this all mean? I first want to show you this. Let's go to the Josephus. Now, when reading the Josephus, the book, the records of Josephus and what he gives us is not scripture. That is a disclaimer. However, there are things in the Josephus that prove the Bible even more. You see, to your left, you see what's known as the Cyrus cylinder, which is held at the British Museum. It is an artifact that describes how Cyrus was known for authorizing the reconstruction of not only our holy places, but other foreigners' holy places as well. But I want to look at the Josephus, right? As you read the heading, it says how Cyrus, king of the Persians, delivered the Jews out of Babylon, allowed them to return to their own country and to build their temple, for which work he gave them money. Now, this is very, very important to understanding Daniel 9. Why? Because we have to know the time period of which we're talking about. I don't know about you, but I can't read and not know what's going on. I need to know context. I need to know, who's ruling at this time. It helps me. That's me, though. However, in the first year of the reign of Cyrus, reading from the Josephus, which was the 70th from the day that our people were removed out of their own land into Babylon. Are you seeing the connections? God commiserated the captivity and calamity of these poor people according as he had foretold to them by Jeremiah the prophet before the destruction of the city. Good night. That after they had served Nebuchadnezzar and his posterity, and after they had undergone the servitude 70 years, he would restore them again to the land of their fathers, that they should build their temple and enjoy their ancient prosperity. And these things God did afford them, for he stirred up the mind of Cyrus, right, the Persian king, Cyrus the Great, and made him write this throughout all Asia, which he ruled over. Thus says Cyrus the king, since God Almighty has appointed me to be king of the habitable earth, I believe that he is the God which the nation of the Israelites worship. For indeed he foretold my name by the prophets, and that I should build him a house at Jerusalem and the country of Judah or Judea. This was known to Cyrus by his reading the book which Isaiah left behind him of his prophecies. For this prophet said that God has spoken thus to him in a secret vision. My will is that Cyrus, whom I have appointed to be king over many great nations, send back my people to their own land and build my temple. This was foretold by Isaiah 140 years before the temple was even demolished. Are you hearing this? Accordingly, when Cyrus read this and admired the divine power, and earnest desire and ambition seized upon him to fulfill what was so written. So he called for the most eminent Jews that were in Babylon and said to them that he gave them leave to go back to their own country and to rebuild their city at Jerusalem and the temple of God. You see that there? Right? You see, history and the Bible is so true that even history has to give it up. You see? So a few things we learn here. One thing is that we learn that Cyrus is a real person. You see? Another thing is you see that Cyrus was inspired by the Most High. According to the Josephus, he was shown what Isaiah said about him. What did Isaiah say about Cyrus 140 years before the temple was even destroyed? And and let me help you out. If this is 140 some odd years before the temple was even destroyed, this is years before Cyrus was even Cyrus. Isaiah 44:28, that saith of Cyrus, he is my shepherd and shall perform all my pleasure. Even saying to Jerusalem, thou shalt be built, and to the temple, thy foundation shall be laid. Isaiah 45:1, thus saith the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus. This is what Josephus is saying Cyrus read. Whose right hand I have holden, to subdue nations before him, and I will loose the loins of kings, to open before him the two-leaved gates, and the gates shall not be shut. You see? And one thing to note about Cyrus, when he took over the Babylonian Empire, like back then, when you took over foreign nations, it was through war. Cyrus the Great famously just walked in Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar was not in position to fight. It's said in history, not one arrow was shot. Not one. He just took it. You know why? God made it happen. God brought down the Babylonian Empire because his time was up. Some scholars argue, oh, it was 68 years. The Bible's not true. Oh, it was 71 years. The Bible's not true. Let me help you understand. The right time is ambiguous, like General Q told me. Whether it was 69 years, we know the Most High is a black man, right? If here we go. If someone called me and say, You know, be ready. They're going to come pick me up. Be ready in 5 minutes. I'm not expecting to be here in 5 minutes. That could mean 30 minutes. That could mean 10 minutes. Or I'll be there in a minute. I'll be there in a minute. Does that literally mean a minute? The thing is, with the 70 years, it was about or exactly 70 years that we were in the Babylonian captivity since the destruction of the temple to the reign of Cyrus the Great, who authorized us to go back to Jerusalem and begin the process of reconstructing the temple of God. But like everything in life, life is war. Cambyses the second, the son of Cyrus the Great, while Cyrus the Great was doing different campaigns in other areas, he gave his son Cambyses the second power over that realm, and he halted the reconstruction of the temple. Cambyses the second, as you see in my bullet points at the bottom right, he is the Xerxes in Ezra 4 and 6, not to be confused with Xerxes the Great, right? So when you read Ezra 4 and 6 Xerxes, that's Cambyses the second. When you do the timeline, the chronological order, and comparing the notes or what have you, this guy was a demon, man. Basically, him and other nations, mainly the Persians and the Medes, weren't feeling the fact that Cyrus allowed and granted the children of Israel the access and the things to be able to reconstruct the temple. Like Cyrus was offering gold of what he's, not only what was taken from us, he was willing to give that back to us and then some. You see? But this man here, Cambyses II, halted us. Now, this is why I said go read watch the Daniel 11 video I did with General Q. We went into these names you see here deeply. We went into these. I mean, we was going into all kind of history. You see, but I'm just giving it to you shortly here. So after Cambyses is the one who stopped the construction of the temple and oppressed brothers such as Ezra, Nehemiah, Zerubbabel, who was a direct descendant of King David, Joshua the high priest, who was the high priest at the time, so on and so forth, right? He dies, right? And then not too long after Cambyses II, right, after Smerdis, who was unalived by Cambyses II, his older brother, and Pseudo-Smerdis, who only had a 6-month reign, who was the Artaxerxes in Ezra 4 and 7 through 24. Most of the historians would agree to. Then you had Darius. Now I'll show you back on this family tree where Darius comes in. So he's not the direct descendant of Cyrus. However, they come from the same dynasty. They come from Darius the Great comes from the Achaemenid dynasty. I say Achaemenid. It could be Achaemenid. Tomato. It is what it is. Iran. But this is Darius the First. This is Darius the Great, the father of Xerxes the Great, the greatest of all Persian kings, if you will, in history. So let me see here. And by the way, this is amazing. Let's say that the Josephus thing isn't true. What is true is that Isaiah prophesied of Cyrus 100 plus years, right? 140 plus years before the even destruction of the temple, and prophesied that Cyrus would do what he would do. You see? That is power. That's power. So now we have Darius the Great, right? Mind you, the Persians today are the Iranians, or the Iranians. I'll say the Iranians, who in 1935 changed their name from Persia to Iran. That's just a fun fact. So let's look at uh, Ezra 6:1, where Darius reinstates what Cyrus starts. You could read Ezra's the 5th chapter, but let's just give it, nip it in the bud. Ezra 6:1. Then Darius the king, this is Darius the Great, made a decree, and a search was made in the house of the rolls where the treasures were laid up in Babylon. And there were found at Achmetha, and the palace that is in the province of the Medes, a roll, and therein was a record thus written: in the first year of Cyrus the king, of the same Cyrus, the king made a decree concerning the house of God at Jerusalem. Let the house be builded, the place where they offered sacrifices, and let the foundations thereof be strongly laid. The height thereof 60 cubits, and the breadth thereof 60 cubits, with 3 rows of great stones, and a row of timber, and let the expenses be given out of the king's house. Huh? And also let the golden and silver vessels of the house of God, which Nebuchadnezzar took forth out of the temple which is at Jerusalem, and brought into Babylon, be restored, and brought again into the temple which is at Jerusalem, every one to his place, and placed them in the house of God. Not only was this a prophecy that Jeremiah prophesied would happen, Isaiah prophesied this 100 plus years before the temple was even destroyed. Then it's actually happening in history. So what happened is Cambyses, wicked behind, he wanted to stop what Cyrus started. He died, and some years later, the Lord called, and look, they could have not found this scroll that this record was written in, but the Lord allowed it to be found because Darius the Great has some kind of honor to the men before him to do this thing. You see? But it was not Darius. It wasn't Cyrus. Yeah, the Lord used him, but it was the Lord. That's what you need. Good night. Keep reading. Do I need to? Yeah. Verse 7. No, verse 6. Now therefore, Tatnai, governor beyond the river, Shethar, and your companions, the Aphskarites, which are beyond the river, be ye far from thence. Let the work of this house of God alone. Let the governor of the Jews, at this time Zerubbabel, and the elders of the Jews, Joshua was the high priest at the time, build the house of God in his place. Moreover, I make a decree, what ye shall do to the elders of these Jews for the building of this house of God, that of the king's goods, even of the tribute beyond the river, forthwith expenses be given unto these men, that they be not hindered. So not only was the things that Nebuchadnezzar the Great took from us restored unto us, we found favor in the sight of Darius the Great, Cyrus the Great, to come out of their goods and give us what's needed to rebuild this temple. I did a breakdown on the sanctuary, and I talked about Solomon's temple, how important it is. You see this? It's like you got Ezra, first Ezra, second Ezra, Nehemiah, I said Ezra, Haggai, Zechariah. All these books are these are like 5+ books talking about this event in our history. You know why? Because it's important. Why? I'll explain. Now, one thing I want to note here. I mentioned in times past, nations were known for being defensed by walls, by being surrounded by huge walls. At this time in Israelite history, because of the siege of Jerusalem and them destroying our walls, we had no fort of protection. So when we, led by Zerubbabel and the men under him, and the Spirit of the Lord, we had no defense walls. Like it is said, General Muhammad told me, brothers that were rebuilding the temple had a brick in one hand and a sword in another. And that, when he said that, it just made so much sense, because we didn't have fortified walls surrounding us. We were, but this is important to understand, right? And you take this with you in life. Zechariah was a brother, a prophet. You see, he was a prophet, and he was receiving visions. Now, that's why I like context in history. Zechariah, if you didn't know any better, you wouldn't know that he was a part of the reconstruction of the temple. And when he wasn't building, when he went to bed, or however he received his visions, he received visions, and a lot of the visions from chapter 1 to chapter 9 had to do with the reconstruction of the temple of God. Zechariah 2:1. I lifted up mine eyes again and looked, and behold, a man with a measuring line in his hand. Then said I, Whither goest thou? And he said unto me, To measure Jerusalem. So he sees an angel measuring Jerusalem, right? To see what is the breadth thereof and what is the length thereof. And why? Why is he measuring? Because that's what we would need to do in order to fortify ourselves with walls. And behold, the angel that talked with me went forth, and another angel went out to meet him, and said unto him, Run, speak to this young man. Jerusalem shall be inhabited as towns without walls, for the multitude of men and cattle therein. For I, saith the Lord, will be a wall unto her, a wall of fire round about, and will be the glory in the midst of her. So during this time, even though we didn't have physical walls, the Lord was with us. The Lord said, I will be as a wall of fire round about. Meaning, no matter what, build that temple, build it. No matter if Cambyses tries to halt us, because there was a time, it went a few years where the temple was almost as an eyesore in the land. And Haggai had to get on, brothers. Y'all doing what you do with your house. If you read Haggai, the first chapter, you fixing up your houses, but my house isn't fixed. You see? But the Lord said that he was going to be with us. And that's when Darius went and found the scroll and the roll that was written by Cyrus the Great and his decree, and he honored that decree. You see? The Most High is our defense. And he's our defense now. Now, did you know, this is a little sidebar I wanted to implement in the class, in the video. Did you know in Daniel 11:1 and 2, the three kings are the following? And so in Daniel 11:1, also I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, this is not Darius the Great. This, like I said, Darius was more of a throne name, like a title. So that was, sometimes it's kind of confusing who's who. I'm trying to shed a little light on that. I stood to confirm and to strengthen him. And now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the fourth shall be far richer than they all. And by his strength, through his riches, shall he stir up all against the realm of Grecia. Who are the 3 kings in Daniel 11:2? You had Cyrus the Great, Cambyses II, Darius the Great, and the fourth, who was far richer than them all, was, of course, Xerxes the Great. This is the same Xerxes in the movie, if you ever seen the 300, with Leonidas and the 300 and going against the Persians. Whether or not Xerxes' voice was that deep and, that freaky of a man, I can tell you. However, that's who a lot of that history, the Battle of Thermopylae, was a real thing. That was a real event in history, right? And he stirred up all the realms of Grecia. Like, the Persians was on top. That was on top, man. That was on top. And when you go further down the line in history, after Xerxes, you had Darius the second, and then you had Darius the third, is when they started to decline in power. And Darius the third, and I believe around 330 BC, went to war with Alexander the Great at what was known as the Battle of I.S.U.P.K, right? And lost. And Daniel 8, which we've covered, the Greeks took over. So, but that's another lesson for another time. Now we here at Daniel 9. So what is, before I even, let you even see that. So what does, Nebuchadnezzar sieging Jerusalem, and then the destroying our temple, and then Cyrus stepping into the equation 70 years later, as prophesied by Jeremiah, right? And Isaiah, who spoke of Cyrus 140 plus years before Cyrus was even born, before the temple was even destroyed. Right? Comprehend that Isaiah is saying the temple is going to be rebuilt, and the temple ain't even destroyed yet. And by name mentioning Cyrus. All those things came true. All those things came true. I'm going to say it one more time. All those things, all the prophecies of Isaiah, all the prophecies of Jeremiah, all the prophecies of Daniel have come true. So if those things come true, if those things have come true, if Cyrus was an actual person, they find in archaeological evidence and finding findings of the Persians mentioning the Jews and things of that nature. Daniel 9 and 24 has to be true. Daniel 9 and 24. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city to finish the transgression, to make an end of sins, and to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy, right? Daniel is aware, like we read in Daniel 9 and 1 earlier, Daniel 9 and 1, in the first year of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, the seed of the Medes, which was king over the realm of the Chaldeans, and the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood by books the number of the years whereof the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah the prophet, that he would accomplish 70 years in the desolations of Jerusalem. So Daniel knew that it was going to be 70 years, give or take, precisely, that we would be under the Babylonians until Cyrus came into play, right? Daniel 9 and 25 says, this is 500 years, give it roughly, before Christ, right? 480, 500 years, right? Daniel 9 and 25, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah, the prince shall be 7 weeks, and 62 weeks the street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times. Understand this. The Lord is telling Daniel, know therefore and understand. Yeah, Jeremiah prophesied of 70 years, 70 weeks, right? Which was the 70 years. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem, meaning from the time Cyrus gave the decree to restore the temple and rebuild Jerusalem, from that time unto the Messiah, the prince shall be 7 weeks, and 62 weeks. Right? The street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times, because we were, the brothers Ezra, Nehemiah, and so on and so forth, was rebuilding the temple in troublous times. They were being halted. They were, being bothered and harassed, you understand, by the other nations and conspired against. But we had 70 weeks. Here's the thing. This is what I want you to understand. From the time of the rebuilding of the temple to Christ, the prophet is saying, the Lord is saying, you have 7 weeks. What do we know? Was it literally 7 weeks? No. But 7 weeks isn't 70 weeks. You understand? Meaning you don't have that much time. You don't have that much time to get right. And that's why when you read 2nd Ezra 14 and 11 on down, you don't have that much time. I'll read it. I didn't put it in a slideshow presentation, but I'll read 2nd Ezra 14 and 1. Right? You don't have that much time to play around. You don't have any time to play around, but you don't have that much time. 2nd Ezra 14 and 11. For the world is divided into 12 parts, and the 10 parts of it are gone already. Right? The world is divided into 12 parts, just like a sundial, like time. Like back then, we used the sundial, and just like today on your clock, you have 12 hours, right? The world is divided into 12 parts, and the 10 parts of it are gone already, and half of a 10 part, meaning if this was a clock or if this was on a sundial, it would be 10:30. You only got till 12, right? And there remaineth that which is after the half of the 10 part, meaning an hour and a half you have, right? Now therefore set thine house in order, and reprove thy people, comfort such of them as be in trouble, and now renounce corruption. Let go from thee mortal thoughts, cast away the burdens of man, put off now the weak nature. Mind you, this is Ezra saying this. This is Ezra saying this. Ezra is getting busy reconstructing this temple too. You see? Daniel 9 and 26. And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. Why? Because Christ came, right? And died not for himself, but for us. And the people of the prince that shall come, it's like it, and the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. Who did that? What is that line talking about? That's talking about the other siege of Jerusalem that would happen after Christ. Remember, Christ warned brothers in Matthew 24 and 15 about the abomination of desolation entering Judah again, or Judea again, that would defile. And he said, flee to the mountains when this happens. And the end thereof shall be with a flood, and that's the end of the war. Desolations are determined. You see, it was like a flood. You ever heard the term or the saying that they came in like a flood? You see, it was very they were destructive. You see, the Romans under Vespasian and his son Titus. You see, the prince is Esau. That's the prince in this context in Daniel 9. And in Daniel 9 and 27, and he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even unto the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. This is Daniel prophesying roughly 500 years before the birth of Christ, before the Roman Empire was the Roman Empire, that the Roman Empire would sacrifice swine's flesh on our altars, destroy what the brothers are rebuilding. You see what I'm saying? Like, Daniel was tapped in. He was tapped in, man. Daniel was tapped in. He knew that he knew that there would be a Messiah coming. Then to add insult unto injury, right? Before, this is to give you a timeline, 30, 40 years after Christ dies and is resurrected. Before he was born, you had Herod, who added unto the temple and put Roman symbolism on the entrance, and eagles, and you know what I'm saying, defiled the temple even more. You see, it was corrupt at this point in history. But Daniel prophesied that was going to be destroyed. Christ prophesied that was going to be destroyed. When he said these stones, none of these stones will stand hereafter. So what I wanted to show you in Daniel 9 was that this book is true. And not only that, you only have a week. You don't even have a week. Paul said, the time is short. Our salvation is nearer than we believed. Romans 13 and 11. You understand? So you have to not play around. You have to build up your house. And don't worry about the opposition. We in Israelite School UPK, we know all about those who want to stop and halt this truth. We know all about it. Just like during the time of Ezra and Nehemiah and Zerubbabel and Joshua the high priest and Haggai and Zechariah, when they were rebuilding the temple. We were rebuilding the temple. And there are men who seek to stop us. But guess what? There's a wall of fire protecting us. And you cannot stop us. No algorithm against us. No shadow ban against us. No police force. No FBI agents, secret agents, spies. None of it can stop the temple being built. For the latter house, for the latter house will be greater than the first house. That's what Haggai said in Haggai 2 and 9. Good night, man. Hey, I hope you gain some understanding. If not, rewatch it again. Give this video a like, a thumbs up, a share, and we appreciate your time. Put a lot of time into these breakdowns, and I do it for the viewers. I do it for those who want to earnestly learn and honestly and sincerely serve the Lord. So the water to you who watch and support the channel and support these breakdowns and watch them. I know they be kind of long-winded sometimes, but we appreciate it. So with that, I'm going to say shalom.